I'm Greg Hunter. Welcome to USAWatchdog.com. Well, it's a real treat. It's a double shot of two of my favorite guests on here. Bill Holter, financial writer, financial expert, and renowned in his own right, and also the world-renowned Mr. Gold, expert in all things financial, particularly precious metals. It's Jim Sinclair and Bill Holter. Jim Sinclair and Bill Holter, thanks for joining me today on USAWatchdog.com.
Nice to be here, Greg.
Thanks for having us, Greg.
Well, you know, when you called me, Bill, you talked to me in the pre-interview. This is where I'm going to start. So I just thought this up just now. And you said, well, this is our last interview if Biden wins. And I thinking Biden's not going to win. But tell me your thinking. Why is this your guys' last interview if Biden wins?
First off, we don't think that Biden is going to win. I mean, if you look at just the anecdotal evidence, I mean, I think probably the best poll is look at the ratings for the NBA Finals. They're down 67%, and I think that is people voting. People don't want Black Lives Matter or anything political shoved in their face for sporting events. As far as why this might be our last interview, just listen to what Kamala Harris has said. She said, you know, if we win, we're coming after you. And she's talking about conservatives, and we are conservatives.
Jim, so what are your thoughts on this, on what's coming after the they're planning massive riots in the cities, right? So, and it just hit me before I got on the air. I said, well, are you planning celebration riots? Because everybody's told us for months that Biden's going to win. Kamala and Hunter and Hunter Florian's like and Joe Biden are going to win, and they're planning for violence. It sounds like they're planning to lose.
They are losers by not having been more vocal and direct in opposing the type of violence that we've been through. It can only be in a different place. It can't be more violent than a shooting war. I'm in absolute shock that there's a possibility that half of the people in the U.S., half the voters, really want that type of an environment where violence is not only tolerated, but actually encouraged. An environment where taxes rise, an environment where the right of free speech is so significantly reduced. But where do you go? Where is there something better? And both I and Bill have lived outside the United States for considerable length of time, enough to tell you that if you don't speak the same language as where you are, and if you don't look like the man next to you, you're in big trouble no matter where you go. So this is the most important election that has ever taken place since our founding fathers constructed a magnificent document, the Constitution, which even to today and to the foolishness of today speaks to the problem.
Jim, watch your desk. You're bumping something there, so just watch that. That's okay, good. Now, I'm not trying to scold you. Just that what you're saying is very important. Let's go back over to, and you're both on the screen at the same time. Go ahead, Bill.
Greg, I just want to point out I think this is the very, very first presidential election where one candidate is promising to raise taxes. I mean, how do you run on a platform? As soon as I'm president, your taxes are going to go up.
Oh, but not for you, the little man.
Oh yeah, that's such a lie. What they're saying is that you're not going to raise your tax, which I think they are. But what they're not telling you is that your cost of living is going to skyrocket, and the little guy's already being squeezed like hell because of all these bailouts, and nobody ever went bankrupt since 2000 because we changed the bankruptcy laws and did away with Glass-Steagall. How much of a problem would it be if we went to total socialism? Start with you, Jim.
Well, it has historically destroyed the fabric of almost every country that has been adopted. Some of the smaller Scandinavian countries have gotten by, but their environment is not necessarily one you'd want to live in. The idea of a granny government taking care of all of our needs is simply financially impossible. as it is impossible for a green revolution at this point in time. A green evolution is not necessarily wrong, but a green revolution would be a total disaster. So the economy going into this election is severely challenged, because if what's on the platform for the socialists was in fact to be adopted, it would have a almost nuclear effect on what's left of business in this COVID environment.
Wow. Are you worried, Jim?
I'm scared. I'm worried and disappointed. I mean, it's the kids that want socialism, and I say, I love my children, but I don't know if I could ever forgive them.
Wow. Are you so you were going to say you're scared?
To death.
You're scared to death
because of the change in lifestyle, because of the First Amendment, because of all the things that are being attacked, because Harris is coming to get us, but more so, two things. One, there is a constitutional road to the Speaker of the House ending up the president, and President Harris would be something to deal with because of her extreme, outrageous, over-the-top socialism.
Jim, how about you?
I would just say that mathematically, our financial system is bankrupt. Can they string it along another year, 2 years, 3 years? I don't know, but I do know if we go full-blown socialism, that's pulling on the hand grenade. It goes off right away. And if I'm not mistaken, Greg, Jim and I did a.
You cut out there. You said you pulled it. Say that again. Say that again. If we went full blown socialism, what? Say it again.
They're basically pulling the pin on the grenade. It blows up immediately. Everything will blow up faster, harder, and also what people I think don't factor in is when this thing goes down. And I said this a few years ago. When this thing goes down, I hope it goes down under the rule of law. And under socialism, the rule of law is basically, whatever they say it is. And I was also going to mention that I think it was a couple years back, Jim and I did an interview with you. It was titled, "The World is Venezuela." We were comparing the financial system to what's going on or has gone on in Venezuela. And I mean, the U.S. will immediately move to a financially broken status
if the socialists take over.
Correct.
It's instantaneously. The green revolution will have such an impact on general business and put so many people out of jobs without any spot to replace the job, any other job available, that it would actually be a political event as an economic sin.
Jim, I'm not trying to scold you, but just watch that. You're bumping your desk. Your side. So okay.
I spun it all around.
Okay. All right. Let's move on. Just remind you about that. I do the same stupid thing. I'll do this in an interview, and at the end of the interview, at the whole interview, I say, "Oh, I was tapping my desk. Oh, I'm an idiot." So anyway, and you're not an idiot, but I am. But anyway, okay. Let's come back to the gold. We're kind of frozen. A lot of people want to know why gold is frozen, why it's hit. You both said it would be on its way up and on its way up pretty big. That's at least started. We're at around $1,900 in change. We've had some tough days in the stock market. What's going on with the gold market? I'll start with you, Jim.
Well, I think in introducing a question, you also gave one of the answers to the question. And that is that when the naughty house gets raided by the police, the piano player is taken out, and all he's trying to do is, create a song, make people happy, and play the piano. He's not guilty of anything at all. So when the market sells down 1,000, it has two effects. One, in the mind of an investor, whatever you got that's sellable, you sell. And the other side is that people immediately go back to old standards. Now, gold is happening for entirely different reasons than it did before, and will make entirely different prices than it has ever been conceived of before, because of Bill's theorem and thesis on overmuch debt. So people think deflation when they see a market rip apart. And so that clicks on in people's mind as a negative for gold, not realizing that it is one of the most important ingredients to the significant appreciation in the gold price. But there is no comparison between this gold market now and anything we've gone through before, both technically and fundamentally. Technically, the potential of the gold market is extraordinary on the upside. And fundamentally, when sovereigns become burdened with debt beyond anyone's ability to imagine, you start a series of other events in a world which since 2008 has done nothing but expand liquidity, in which sovereigns, especially the Fed, has expanded its balance sheet at every opportunity, and not necessarily in the strongest of items. The idea that central banks are very much involved in the equity market for most of my lifetime would have been unthinkable as a violation of the ethic of the entity. But today, your high-flying, multi-thousand-dollar newbies are inventoried through the Swiss central bank by the New York Fed and other sovereigns. So it's different. People don't understand why gold is even here today. And they won't have the slightest idea, but you keep hearing reset, reset, reset. Behind that, you hear cryptocurrency, okay? And two nations, not for investment, but rather for the policy of control, have taken the largest inventories in gold. That's Russia and China. So there's a very significant political theorem involved in what we'll call free gold, but not necessarily the school of free gold, but gold price mechanism transition from paper to physical will have a definitive effect on the price of gold on the high side. So all this happening, people just don't understand why gold is even here. Why did gold do what it did? Now, we told you why gold did what it did. But, Bill, I should leave it to Bill because he's done so much writing on it. When nations on their balance sheet exceed their GDP and by 50%, that's 50% higher than what used to make you a banana republic. And the whole free world, if it is free, the whole and the considered developing world is awash in debt like they've never been in history. And there is your primary reason for gold. Now, all the other items will come in. There will be a form of inflation in that everything that you need will cost you more, and everything that you have now, like your Tesla, and don't need, will fall through a black hole in the floor. Restock. Look at what's happening with the pandemic. Now, we've advised people to be prepared in many different ways, and for a long time we were the tin hat boys, and but we've always looked at it in a very practical way. Louisiana got hit 3 times, didn't it? Just now it would be nice to have had a preparation for that to come. There have been weather and now riots. If you were in Philadelphia in the last 2 nights, you wouldn't have gone out to the delicatessen to pick up a Swiss cheese sandwich.
Yep.
People don't have food in their house and are afraid to go out to purchase it. And the stampede out of New York up here into Connecticut is actually that word. It is a real estate stampede. People are paying out of New York above the offering price, while the general real estate market is nothing to sing about. So, all those phenomena that Bill had spoken about years and years ago, every single one of them, Bill nailed right. And that's why, it makes me very proud to be associated with Bill. He saw it coming, had the courage to tell people, helped many people who followed his advice. But it's still not too late. You have an election coming. You have either, whomever wins is going to be held to pay. And how are you on a week's worth of groceries? You may not want to go down to if you're in a major city, you will not want to go down to the deli. And, this is going to come to the burbs. There's no way to stop it.
Jim, Bill, let's go over to you and just kind of follow that line of thought. All the news stories are breaking that they're expecting, big violence. Well, it sounds like they're expecting a Trump win. Walmart quit selling now. They used to sell shotguns and rifles like 270s and 308s, bolt action hunting rifles, right? They stopped that. They don't want to contribute to the social unrest and the violence, which I think is a pretty big statement by Walmart. They stopped selling handgun ammunition in 223 and stuff like that. I don't think they ever sold handguns, at least not in the stores I work at. But wow, I mean, the warning signs are we're going to have violence. We're going to have social unrest. What's your thoughts on what's coming November 4th and 5th and 6th and after the election?
Well, I think Jim's correct. No matter who wins, there will be immediate violence if Trump wins, and there will be longer term, not paid for violence, but violence from the right as more and more rights get taken away. Your original question was on gold and why it's pulled back. What we saw even before the pandemic. I mean, this goes back to September of 2019. It goes back more than a year. That's when the commercial paper market broke. Once that broke, the Fed was having to put $50 to $100 billion into the system every single night just to keep it afloat. And gold took that cue, and that's where you saw it run from 1,300 all the way up to close to 2,100. And I would remind you that the plunge protection team is actually called the working group, the president's working group on financial markets. That is run or overseen by the president and overseen by the Treasury Secretary. If gold were trading at $2,500, $2,700, $3,000 right now, I think the chances of re-election would be very, very slim, because that would be forecasting a train wreck. So what I think they've done is, they went back to the old bag of tricks of papering that market over by creating additional paper supply. It's still the tail wagging the dog. The paper market is the tail, and Jim and I have been adamant for several years now that ultimately the physical market is where price is going to be made, and you could actually see the paper markets crash and go to zero. Because
I'm so confused by that, Bill. They'll be absolutely stunned, but that is what's going to happen.
Right. What's the value of a contract that cannot perform?
Yeah.
It's zero. Exactly.
And the real stuff is going to go. That's an amazing. I haven't heard that from anybody I've talked to, Bill. That they thumped the price of gold. They put the thumb on the scale because we're going into election, and you can't have gold running at $2,700 an ounce, which is where it would be if they wouldn't have done something to it, right? It would be sending the wrong signal. Right now, it just looks.
Hey, Greg, I also want to mention
That's a good one, Bill. That's a good one.
I do want to mention Jim and I, for quite a few years now, have been talking about reset. And, we were called complete wackos years ago. Reset, that's an impossibility.
Hey, hold on, let me just I'm going to hold your thought on reset. Listen, I was a reporter at 5 TV stations and 2 networks, and I've never thought you guys were wackos. And anybody with 2 neurons touching together, I don't think you're wackos. So I think the really wacko, ugly people think you're wackos. So let's just frame that correctly. Most people do not think. Most people are going to see this interview and go, Bill Holter, Jim Sinclair. So, come back to the reset. So I just want to say that to you. You're not wackos for people with some neurons touching together, but go ahead. The reset. Talking about the reset.
The point I was trying to make is you don't even have to turn cable TV on. You could look at ABC, NBC, CBS, or you could turn cable on, or you could turn any business channel on, and you're going to hear the term reset. Yeah. So reset is now mainstream. When 4 or 5 years ago, reset, you're a crazy man.
And what's the reset going to look like, Bill? Go ahead and follow that line of thought. What is, because people keep hearing this reset. What's it going to look like? And both you guys are on the screen, so I just want to remind you too. You're both, and not that you're doing anything bad, just want to keep reminding you that I don't do this often, so, I'm reminding myself too. Go ahead. What's the reset? Bill, we'll start with you. What's the reset going to look like?
Stand up, that's for sure.
Okay. I know you all have pants on, so go ahead. What's the reset going to look like? Not like Jeffrey Toobin. Anyway, we'll have a little joke at his expense. But Bill, what's the reset going to look like?
Well, we think it's going to be 2 resets. The first one is man-made, and you're seeing the man-made reset already begun. We're in it now, and what that's going to do is that's going to allow those in power currently to remain in power. That's going to fail. Confidence will break. Once confidence breaks, then you're going to have a reset from Mother Nature, and that'll be a real reset, and it'll affect everything.
I agree 100%, Bill.
Do you think one of my friends came out and was telling me that he likes he thinks that they're doing this on purpose. They're trashing these cities. I think there's a wink, wink, nod, nod in Philadelphia that, the governor could have called the National Guard. They're just looting everything, destroying it. I mean, they're destabilizing this. They're doing it on purpose. Jim, do you follow that line of thought that they're destabilizing this in New York and Philadelphia and burning everything down in Minneapolis and Portland and Seattle and San Francisco? Yeah. Are you of the mind they're doing this on purpose, that they're destabilizing this on purpose, and why? Is that part of the man-made reset?
The destabilization is in order to blame Mr. Trump, our president, for what they consider his rhetoric, the way he speaks and acts, as being destabilizing and splitting the country. Everything to remove Trump has been well organized and well financed, and these riots are well organized and well financed. Things like bricks have to be paid for. Molotov cocktails, have to be made. To have these kind of things brought in ahead of time and available to the rioters certainly speaks of some type of organization. The fact that many of the rioters, or should we call them protesters, I don't know, we'll have to if the Liberals are elected. These rioters were not from the local cities. And the reason for many of these riots certainly weren't as serious as the riot itself, which killed more people than the one person that may have been killed. Like quite recently, the police are trained that when someone lunges at them with a weapon that could be fatal, to shoot. Someone says, shoot him in the knee. Have you ever been in a firefight? Do you know what chaos that is? I'll put it this way, you go bear hunting in Alaska and a grizzly charges you at 35 miles an hour.
Shoot him in the center of the body mass.
You're going to shoot him in the leg? And not only that, you have to wait until he's almost on top of you to make sure that one shot counts. I mean, those who served in the armed forces know that firefight is a total chaos, and that decisions, although are made by good training, whatever the training is, the police will do. And I honestly don't believe that a psychiatrist running up to any of these people would have worked.
Or a social worker.
Well, a social worker, no.
So it's just an excuse. In other words, this is all just an excuse for destabilization. I mean, where is William Barr in all this? Why isn't he arresting these kingpins? Where's DHS? They're openly saying we're planning to burn everything down. Where's our Homeland Security? I mean, where are they?
Well, the point is, when chaos is working against you, do you want to flame more? Legally and objectively, you need to have a request to bring in federal troops against U.S. citizens. The mayors and the governors, for this process to work, have to request that kind of.
But the governors do control their own National Guard, so I blame it on the governor of Pennsylvania for not, at least the second night, not having.
Every one of them. Look, they're all of the same political ilk. They all did nothing, and doing nothing is to encourage something. Doing nothing invites rioting, not protest. Doing nothing, and then blames the leader of the country for poor leadership. And let's not forget the most convenient pandemic in the history of the world came at exactly the time the banking system was going into another collapse. And now this administration is being blamed for a pandemic that, in fact, closing China down within about a week is not a bad reaction when the other side yelled xenophobic and let all the Chinese in. No, it's not a question of, it could be from Burma, or the old Burma, changing names now. It doesn't matter where it came from. Something about it isn't right.
But you think you've laid it.
It's too good.
Sorry, you laid out a case where this is they want the riots. They want the
riots are wanted.
They want the riots. They want the confusion. They want the chaos. They think this is going to work for them. Bill, well, this is going to work for them. I mean, so far, it's not been a big vote getter for Democrats. I mean, it's
been tuned down as we got closer to the election. But can you imagine if our present president did the right thing and called in the military to put down the burning of a police station with policemen in it? The fort was taken. He would be decimated by the rhetoric of mainstream media. And this whole thing has been such a political mix that, and without invited by one side and very difficult to intervene in by the other side. You really think that, in a light sense, even though this is totally heartbreaking, that this election should be covered on the Comedy Channel, because it's certainly not going to be covered properly on any other channel, Fox or otherwise.
Yeah.
Just will not be.
Your thoughts, Bill?
Yeah, I would go one step further. Basically, Jim's saying that this is organized, it's planned, and the pandemic, the timing of it, convenient. I'd go one step further. What they've really done is they've now destroyed the downtown of all the major cities. Not all, but the majority of the major cities in the U.S. So the economy is way throttled back because everybody's running around wearing masks. They're afraid they're going to die. So there's no entertainment. I mean, all the entertainment industries, the travel industry, lodging, etc. Those industries are dead. Then the riots come along, destroy the downtown. The downtowns, and let's look at it from two standpoints. Okay, so President Trump gets reelected, and what they've done is they've really destroyed the cities. They've really hampered the ability for the cities to get back up and running. Conversely, if Biden wins, it's my opinion that you will immediately see the moratorium on rents, the moratorium on foreclosures. You'll see those eliminated immediately, and they're going to let all of these properties go bankrupt. and then they will lend out federal money to their friends, and those things will be bought up at what, 10 cents, 20 cents on the dollar.
Oh, wow. The governor here stopped evictions. I don't know who King Poobah, Baby Killer Cooper, thinks he is, but he can void a contract and hang everything on the people who are the property owners. That's going to be a court fight. Of course, they got the court loaded up with a bunch of liberals here in the state court, so it's going to have to go to the Supreme Court. But I mean, that's what they're doing all over the country. You know, at least for now. You're saying after the election, that's all over. They're gonna destroy everybody and their buddies at the very top, which is the swamp. This is why the Bidens are the crime family of America, and the whole problem, the tip of the iceberg of what's going on, why the country is in such awful shape, because we keep being robbed and ripped off by the trillions of dollars by these weasels in Washington. Everybody's a millionaire, and everybody out here gets creamed. But so you're thinking that after if Biden wins, then they're going to sell it out to the other people. But let's talk about when Trump wins. What's he going to do?
I mean, I've said all along that it doesn't matter who the president is. It matters whether or not we go down under the rule of law or not under the rule of law. What I was going to add to that last comment is that the losses have already occurred. In other words, you're looking at a real estate industry that's past 180 days late. So, and what was it I think it was in Buffalo, New York, that big 500-room hotel is now reevaluated at 20 cents on the dollar, 20 cents on 2011's dollar. So what I'm saying is the losses have already been taken. You can hide the losses all you want, but the losses are there. Somebody somewhere has to lose.
And you're
at this point, no one has actually lost, so to speak. I mean, yes, you do have businesses that are closed down. You have people that are in dire straits, but you've got the $600 a week. Now it's $300 a week. You've got the moratorium on rent evictions. You've got the moratorium on foreclosures. All that does is hide what's actually already happened.
And what about what happens afterwards? You're saying no matter. I want you to key on this, because this is a big point that you both have brought up. You brought this up in other interviews. You both said, and we'll start with you, Bill, because you were on the last one talking. We're talking about no matter who is elected president, whether we go down under the rule of law or whether we don't. What happens when Trump wins? What is the scenario? Because you have said that he'll preside over the biggest bankruptcy ever.
Right.
So let's start there. What happens about going down? We're going down whether way you like it. We're going down.
Well, I mean, it can't really be forecasted as to what it's going to look like. It's just going to be a complete disaster. You have the financial system. You have the government that issues the world's reserve currency is basically bankrupt. And the only thing that they can do is create trillions upon trillions more. So you're going to have massive deflation on one side of the things you have, not the things you need, but the things you have. Your assets are going to deflate, and the things you need, you're going to have a massive inflation. The things you need, like food. So, food, electricity. I mean, you're looking at a deflation of assets that have been borrowed against, and a hyperinflation of the things you need. It's going to destroy. It'll destroy the wealthy people who own things, and it'll destroy the little guy because he's not going to be able to afford food. And Greg, I've heard a lot of people in the last 3 to 6 months telling me that they're going to go out and take their capital and they're going to buy real estate free and clear. And they tell me, what's safer than that? The problem with that is, properties can, and certainly I believe will, be taxed away from people. And the other thing is, the reason there are the prices that we currently see and saw in real estate is because debt was used. Easy credit was given out to buyers. Once the credit spigot is busted, if you own a piece of property free and clear, who are you going to sell it to and for what?
You better be farming it. You better be living in it. You better have some other utility. I mean, I told a neighbor of mine, I said, listen, even if your house gets cut in half, you're still living in it. I mean, nobody's going to be knocking on your door. Sheriff's department, get out. I mean, that's an important asset if you're using the house for what it's supposed to be for, to live in, to go to the bathroom, to take a shower, to have dinner at. I mean, that's what people have got away. Oh, a house is an investment. No, it's a place to live.
Right.
So, and Jim, what are your thoughts on the post-Trump? I'm really kind of stamping out here, aren't I? Listen, they're planning on riots because they're planning on losing. They're panicking. I mean, yeah, Joe Biden, Jim, this is to you. Joe Biden was quoted, and he's supposed to be saying, right? I've been saying there's going to be massive voter fraud, right? And you can't say, oh, Joe Biden, he's just crazy. Well, no, they're telling us he's sane. And he was out and quoted as saying they put together the most massive, this is almost a direct quote, the most massive voter cheating fraud apparatus in the history of voting. I mean, this is how bad their ideas are. Let's see. Well, we can't win our ideas. Let's just cheat like hell. So when this, do you think that the cheating is going to make it with all this black vote? And the most recent poll, 31%. I mean, it was 8% for Trump, who doubled it from Romney in 2016. 31%. Other polls, 46%. That's just a black vote. And Hispanic vote's going to be high. The Democrats are going to be voting for Trump. But anyway, so let's just follow this line of thinking about it's going to be bad no matter what, bad for Trump, but he's going to remediate it in a different way. How is he going to remediate this where we retain the Constitution, the rule of law, your property, your Second Amendment rights, your First Amendment? That's what we're talking about here. Do we have a crash where we lose everything, including all of our rights, or do we have a crash where we can build it back and have a Constitution?
We have a crash that can be built back. There is a road forward. The road forward starts to make itself clear in 2032. We have a
2032,
2032 is the end of the impact of what's about to happen.
It goes 11 years. Holy cow.
No matter who is elected. And the first reset will be very intellectual in nature. And it might calm things down for a while because media lauding what's happening. But it's almost sure to come regardless of who's elected. The economic problem is quite serious. And, what we've seen in recent economic figures this week, for instance, is more of an anomaly than it is of a trend. You come from nothing to something that's an infinite improvement.
You're talking about 33% increase in GDP.
Yeah, that's nominally not a trend.
Okay.
And so you're going to be looking towards the correcting of trying to make the balance sheet of the reserve currency look somewhat better. So there's going to be an effort to stabilize the long bond market, and there's going to be an introduction of something hoped for to substitute as a currency, if while this is being done, the rule of law is respected, the police are not defunded, free speech is allowed, the Second Amendment is maintained, there is a way forward, and there is a repair, and it will come back together. However, if none of those exist, the last four I mentioned, then it's a total social, political change, irreparable in nature, or to delight the children who are now all pure socialists. If you told me even 5 years ago that the United States would want socialism, I would think you were smoking some kind of a then illegal funny cigarette.
So there is a way forward if we can maintain the Constitution and rule of law.
That's right. We have to go through what we see in capitalism, or I prefer to look at it as in free markets. When an airline didn't have money, it wouldn't receive a largesse from the government. It would go broke. and eventually others with better finances would acquire the airline, and it would come out of the situation, and in time hopefully become profitable again. When a company made an airplane that had a flight plan of straight up then straight down, and nobody wants to buy a Boeing anymore because the computers argue with each other, and there's no way you can kill any of the computers and expect the rest to work while in flight. You can't shut down 2010, I think it was, where the computer took over the ship. You've got that in Boeing. Boeing would go broke. Okay, and and bits and pieces of it would find their way into other companies and into other hands who are better managers. And although Boeing might be something in history, there would be many new companies and new jobs that would spring up. If the rule of law doesn't exist and the Constitution continues to be under assault, then there is no fabric behind what's going on. There is no backbone in any recovery. You have standard socialism, which is Marxism and Leninism, and you will find your way into a situation where it would probably be better to live in an oligarch Russia than it would be to live in a socialist USA.
Wow, that's a powerful statement.
Greg, let me add to that. What Jim's trying to get the point across is that they don't allow bankruptcies anymore. Everything's too big to fail, and because it's gone on for so long, that companies have not been allowed to go under, not allowed capitalism to clean out the bad debt. Now it's all bad debt, and where we stand now is it's going to be a systemic bankruptcy. It's all going to go down because they didn't let anything go down.
So the sovereigns own the junk.
Right.
Okay, so that's something to think about, Greg. The sovereigns own the junk. They're loaded with stuff that you and I wouldn't want anywhere near our portfolios that in fact have no market. Where do you think the bad derivatives have gone?
Exactly.
That's where they are. They're still there. These things are returnable until they explode. And if you stand back and let them blow up, then this problem today wouldn't exist to the degree it does if we had treated the situation in 2008 differently. But listen, in 2008, money was lent to the good old boys to buy bankrupt financial institutions with a guarantee against loss. Okay, get ready, it's coming again.
In a bigger way, the whole and Bill, you're saying the whole system, because they didn't let this go down. The whole system now is not going to be, J.P. Morgan Chase or Goldman Sachs, which should have gone down with AIG. Or General Electric, which should have gone down. Warren Buffett's an idiot. Warren Buffett should have gone down. He didn't go down. He had all this, Wells Fargo, General Electric, Goldman Sachs, all people he had, loaned money to. Oh, he's brilliant. He's an incompetent boob. Oh, my secretary pays more tax than I do. Yes, your secretary doesn't get multi-trillion-dollar bailouts. And you're saying now it's just not a company or two or three or four. It's governments. It's the whole system.
Absolutely. The bottom line is the system is far larger. The system dwarfs all the central banks. And it's the central banks that have propped everything up with their balance sheets, and they've destroyed their balance sheets.
The Fed went from we spent $3 trillion since just the COVID thing, 3.3 trillion. Somebody wrote me a stat just since March, and they're wanting another couple of trillion.
It's coming.
You say so? You think? Wait. You think more stimulus is coming, Jim?
Yes, it is. Regardless of who is elected, the money might be used better by one party than the other, but regardless of who is elected, the jubilee, such as student debt now is on holiday, will continue. And although it is biblically correct that around every contractive cycle, debts can't be repaid. That's where we are right now. Leviticus, okay? He would have made a great economist, and he would have been banned on Twitter. That's for sure.
And closing statements from you. I'll start with you, Bill.
Well, I just wanted to, what I was going to mention is that the Federal Reserve's balance sheet back in 2005, 6, 7, it was what? $700 billion. And then they ran it in 08, 09, they ran it to $4.5 trillion. Now it's 7 on its way to 10. So you're looking at a tenfold move in the Fed's balance sheet in what? 11, 12 years? I mean, they have bankrupted themselves. And don't forget, they're the ones who issue the money. I mean, so what was worthless is now worth less than worthless. It's below zero. It's like negative interest rates.
Go
ahead.
Without a bankruptcy. No recovery without a bankruptcy has ever occurred.
Right.
Say that again, Jim. Explain that.
No recovery devoid of a bankruptcy has ever occurred in a sustained and consistent manner. Stopping the bankruptcy on a continuing basis and weakening the sovereign ends up breaking the main means of that has been used to create the facade of an ongoing economy in every one of the crises we've had in my lifetime, and I've had a good long one.
Stopping the bankruptcies break the economy. It will ultimately break the economy.
I mean, every 4-year cycle, remember?
Right.
Okay, we let the steam out, and back we came. Then all of a sudden it became politically impossible to allow the steam out of any kind of significant recovery, paper over, keep it going, until they created their own monster. Okay? And now you are headed for bankruptcy. It must happen. If the rule of law is maintained, there is a tomorrow. And if the rule of law is not maintained, we've lost everything here that people have died for, that people put up their livelihood, their money, the revolution against King George, all gone, waste of time, everything. Death by heroes, waste of time.
You've said this in the past, and when you've said it, people, 80,000 gold, 40,000. Jim Rickards has also had big numbers on gold too. You're not alone. He's a 4-time best-selling financial author. So you're not alone. There's other people that made big numbers on gold, and when you did, we didn't have we had a $3.7 trillion balance sheet, and then now all of a sudden we've got a $7 trillion balance sheet, and we've got another $3 trillion just since March put on the federal ticket. And all of a sudden, those big gold numbers don't seem so unbelievable now. I mean, you're talking about a $10 trillion balance sheet, a 15. Rickard says could be 12, 15. I had Nomi Prinzon, best-selling author. They said they're going to 10, 12, 15. They're going high.
The balance sheets must be balanced, and they will be balanced by a monetary crisis.
So gold is going much higher. Period. The end.
Gold has a rather outrageous potential price structure. Bill even thinks a great deal more than I thought. But for one simple reason, gold always balances the balance sheet of whatever is considered the reserve currency under a pressure situation.
And that's going to be thousands of dollars, not a few $100 move from here.
Bill said 87,005, and I think it's gone up since.
Yeah, the number's over $100,000 now. Per ounce. If you take the 261 million ounces that we supposedly have, and I don't believe we have that. We've not had an audit since 1956. But if you take that 261 million ounces and you divide into the current debt, which is 27 trillion, you're well over $100,000 an ounce now.
But that
if we have to pay our debt back in gold, the gold would have to be priced over $100,000 an ounce.
And having gold, not convertible, but even having gold, would be the definition of free gold, taken away from the influence of leveraged paper. And it would be that asset you hold that would give strength to whatever was left of your currency. You'll always have currency. Gold will not be currency. Gold is what maintains long-term value. Gold is a storehouse of value. Gold is a standard against which other things are measured. And the system has not allowed bankruptcy to maintain equilibrium. It became politically impolite and impossible. Yet in my early life, it was about once every 4 years, and then we had a couple of longer ones, but we had a great period of 50 more years of wonderful growth. And the growth we have now, and the environment we've made, you saw in the interview of the leaders of the tech companies. And although some of them were relatively clean cut, I must say they found one guy in there that looked like they picked him up off the corner of wherever and wherever.
That's Jack Dorsey.
Oh my God.
Nose ring. He appeared. I thought he had a cold. Other people have been telling me that he showed up. This is what they tell me. I'm saying this is what people told me. That he showed up high. I thought does he have a cold? And they're like, you're stupid. He showed up high. What? So I don't know if that's true or not, but Jack Dorsey, on Twitter.
Tesla man who was on TV with smoking marijuana and drinking whiskey. The world has changed.
He's a billionaire. In closing, anything to say in closing, Bill? I'll start with you and end with Jim.
I would just.
What should people do?
I would urge people who have already prepared to go back through your plan, see what holes, turn your electricity off for a weekend, and see what what your life would be like without electricity. In other words, try to poke holes in your own plan. Top off your supplies. If you haven't started, you may only have a few days left. Who knows what's going to happen with this election? But the point being, you've seen what happened with COVID. We've seen what's happened with hurricanes that come through. You got to prepare, and you've got to think. You've got to have the mindset that you're going to be reliant on only one person. That's yourself or your family. Don't think that when this thing goes down, you're going to be able to dial 911 or dial anything and get help in any manner. So just go back, look at your plan, reassess it, stock up where you're not stocked up, and do the best you can. That's all you can ask of yourself, is to do your best.
Jim?
Well, almost the same thing as Bill said. What you need, you must have. Okay, what is the absolute necessaries for life, and make sure those are yours. What isn't necessary for life, get rid of it. Okay, you don't need a Lexus or a Tesla. You could do very well with a Ford or a Dodge type vehicle. Understand that what we have here with this light and water and this is not a human right. This is a privilege brought on by the long-term growth of a wonderful free society. Recognize that you're not going to have this privilege, as has occurred in every major social experiment. So if we're going into the new green and into socialized everything and free everything, bear in mind that the bankruptcy will occur faster, and the pullback from it will be weak and thin. Therefore, what you need, you must have, and what you don't need, if you can in any way get rid of it, do it. Don't let a dime more of debt come your way. Use all the means there are to exit debt at the present time. Just make yourself as strong as possible in terms of being your own central bank, because your central bank has failed you. And your central bank really can't bail anything out now, not with their own balance sheets saying that they are miserable in terms of financial strength. Recognize that they're going to issue bonds that don't go for 30 or 100 years, but go forever. And they're going to have currencies which are manufactured on the internet that can't be traded by the general individual. We're going into some very interesting times in which the only way to survive is to have what you need and don't need what you shouldn't have.
Bill,
In other words, be strong.
anything else, fellas?
No, just buck up, guys. It's coming. It's here. It's now.
And I always say pray. I mean,
I have one other thing to say,
Go ahead.
Greg. You just said it, pray. If you are a person of any faith, get things right with your maker.
Yeah, well, I'll say Jesus Christ. I mean, Matthew 28:18.
Yes, I mean I'm a Christian, yes, but there are people of other faiths.
I know, but it's
They're all going to the same place on different roads.
okay? As Jesus said, all power in heaven and earth has been given to me, says Jesus in Matthew 28:18. And so,
Amen.
that's who I'm praying to. So, and I'm hoping and praying that this National Day of Prayer worked on I think the 20-something back in September in Washington. The mall was packed. A lot of people are praying all over the country. A lot of people are taking action. You got to get out and vote too. I mean, you got to get out and vote.
Don't fail to vote. Not in this election. And before it might be a statement, but this time it's a mortal sin.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Okay. Listen, you guys, you have a website, jsmindset.com. You have a subscription up in the upper right-hand corner. It's $129 a year. You guys talk, and part of the subscription is this private conversation that you can buy into and get into with you and Jim Sinclair. I mean, it's just very interesting. I mean, if you're talking like this, it's just like it's worth the subscription just to hear you every week.
Round tables, a Saturday over coffee, guys talking to each other. It's not anything more than that, but that's pretty significant.
Well, you got some, financial and gold and precious metal brainiacs at the table, so it's a good thing. But I'll put the links up for that, and people should go. There's free stuff on JS Mindset too. Bill, you write also. That's part of the subscription stuff, but you also put some of the stuff out for free. JSMindset.com. Legendary gold investor, trader, financial expert Jim Sinclair, financial writer, and a legend in his own right, Bill Holter. Thanks, fellows, for coming on and sharing your thoughts at this critical juncture just before the election. Thank you for supporting, and thank you for coming on USAWatchdog.com.
God help us all.
Thank you, Greg.
Bye.